Sam, and I'm talking about the third house in Vedic astrology. And the third house has to do with this part of the body, the neck, the arms, and the shoulders, and it shows the capacity to turn our head and look around and then reach out into the world and screw everything up. Sort of, but not really. Third house is actually that curiosity that arises after we express ourselves and all those values that we inherit first from our family. We say, wait a second, does this really express me? What am I interested in? What do I like? In a simple way, we could actually say that the third house is the house of the ego in all its glory and detriment. The first house is not the house of ego. Like I said, the first house is the house of your truth, your truthful identity, and the truth that you have learned in life. What you really know and who you really are is shown by what's happened with through your physical body, the body-mind complex, and what you're evolving toward are things that are in support of that. The third house is where we start looking into other interests. It's a house of kama, or desire, and it's related to our personal desires, things that we like for ourselves. I like this for myself. I think this is the right thing, and I want to do it no matter what anybody says. Now, it's often important to see how one house evolves from the previous one, and important to understand that each house is a culmination of the previous one and the origin point of the next one. So the third house starts with the second house and then leads to the fourth house, right? So our values, let's say like when we're a child, we have these values. We were raised by people who like to go out and, hunt and shoot guns and, watch sports and, get drunk. Plenty of people like that on some level. I would say at some point in my life I've done all those things too. But we start to compare those activities with other activities in the third house and say, but wait a minute, I don't want to do that. This is more fun. I'm going to enjoy this more. So what we enjoy, what we feel like doing of our own independence and of our own volition is the third house. And it's where we assert our individuality through the ego against our conditioning or against our current friends, and also with our current friends as well. We also wind up with friends, which is the second house, and close social contacts who reflect our interests, right? Which is the third house. But as our interests start to change and we start evolving our third house, we start looking at things that are different than our current comfort zone. And we try a lot of things with the third house, like I said. Let's say, for example, we eat food, we take food into our mouth through the second house, and it gives our body energy to do a whole bunch of stuff in the third house, right? It's like, oh, I want to do this. And we have these values in the second house that are expected of us, let's say from the people around us, but in the third house we challenge those a little bit and say, but I don't want to go and shoot guns anymore. I've done that and I just don't like it. I don't want to watch NASCAR. I don't like it. I don't want to go fishing. These are some of mine, by the way. I don't like fishing. I don't want to yank an animal out of the water and pull a hook out of its mouth and then cut its belly open. Don't like it. I'd rather do this other thing. That's an expression of my own identity and things I like to do for myself. So you can see us rebelling against our conditioning, especially like the conditioning of our family, or again, even of your current sort of comfort zone in the third house. many people who like astrology, they assert this against everything around them. Their family doesn't understand it. Their quote friends that they've known, but they don't understand it. It's some weird thing. Oh, there she goes about their weird astrology stuff again, right? But you do it anyway because it's your third house, and you're going to do it no matter what anybody says. So again, that's a quality of the ego for sure. It's you asserting your individuality against what's expected and whatnot. I'll talk in a few videos about how third house interests become fifth house passions. But for now, just understand that this is the third house. And this is what the ego is. Ultimately, underneath it all, it's there to give you the willfulness to challenge other situations and other circumstances in life. It gives you the intelligence to question, like, your teachers and those structures where people would ask you to believe, oh, just believe me, which is ninth house stuff that we believe in. Questioning ninth house stuff, we question it in the third house. We say, wait a minute, I don't have to believe you. If what you're saying is right, you should be able to explain it and not ask me to subjugate my personal intelligence in order to benefit. Right? You can tell I have a prominent third house, right? So when a teacher, let's say, tells you to just believe me, and you can't produce the data, you can't produce the facts, it's the third house part of you that's saying, wait a minute, produce the facts. If you can produce the facts, then the third house is sold. When you find principles and philosophies connected to facts and data that make sense, then that's good. Then that will lead to those fifth house passions, right? Then you really are inspired and motivated. And then you want to create something with that particular interest. So that evolutionary process of the third house, again, it's your personal desire, your personal karma. That evolutionary process of the third house goes from your individual will and those desires that you want to experience for yourself. And by the way, again, it's the third house personal desire, which includes things like lust, sex for your own pleasure. Very animalistic in that way. Think of that energy, right? It's, I want it for me. I don't care what anybody says, I want it for me. It's very willful. It's the ego, after all. And it's here to keep you alive so that you'll survive. And literally, it's also about fighting and battles and competition with others. And those things can be very damaging. But they're also, it's the same seed principle that brings a higher consciousness and intelligence. So on the physical level, on that tamasic level, the third house is about your personal willfulness, your personal competition with others. Again, lust, not sex that's sharing, where you care about the other person's happiness, but your own. In the emotional rajasic realm of the third house, it's about ideas with other individuals. Like, for instance, when people, I use the example when people are studying with me in a classroom. You can imagine maybe you're in a classroom with each other. All of you watching this video together, or all the people that are in a classroom together as I'm teaching, they have a third house relationship with each other. So it has to do with your peers, not in the public, like in a corporate culture, which is the 11th house, but individuals that are equal, where you share ideas. Of course, it's also called the house of siblings. So there's a sibling quality to it as well. That's what your siblings were. They were, both of you were equal standing, trying to get the approval of the parent. And you were in competition with the other sibling to see who's right, who's wrong, who likes who better, how can I win? This is what we learn with siblings. And it's that third house, learning how to compete, win and lose. It's a very important skill. So in On the soul level, the third house is what I already mentioned, where we use our mind and that faculty of being inquisitive and of wanting to know and wanting to do things because we want it and wanting to understand things. It's that highest quality of curiosity and discrimination. Ultimately, that's where the third house leads us, to higher quality and higher discrimination. So we're not just trying to satisfy our own desires and battling with people to get what we want. And we're not just kind of going sideways laterally with others, and again also like in competition with them in all these emotional struggles. Instead, we're using the intellect to understand the true nature of the self and of itself. And we use that natural courage and passion of the third house to go inward towards self-exploration. Because ultimately, your ego is going to have to will its own death. You see, everybody talks about how much they want to be liberated. They don't want to be liberated. They want to be liberated from their suffering so the ego can run amok and enjoy life. So don't tell me how much you want to be liberated. You don't want to be liberated. You want to be liberated from your suffering so your ego can run amok and enjoy life. That's okay. That's what the ego is. But ultimately, the ego has the courage, literally, to destroy itself and say, this limited self is not me. It takes a lot of discrimination. And then that passion and competition of the ego is in competition with its own ignorance, with its own destructive, attached quality. Because the third house is the first cruel house of attachment. All of those things are necessary for the soul to evolve. We need to find ourselves, we need to navigate the values of others so we find our purpose. We need to have the courage to take care of ourselves through the ego and to struggle as an intermediary step. It's all necessary. But the third house, as being that individual self, creates enormous attachment. Bottom line is, you think you're the ego. All those things you think you are related to the third house mainly, not the first house. The first house is what you're trying to actually express truthfully. And you're stuck in the third house thinking, why isn't this working? Why isn't all these things of the third house getting me what I want? This is me. Actually, it's probably not. If it's you're not in conflict. Because whether you get it or not, when it's your true self, you're content. Because the beauty and joy of it is reward enough through the true self of the first house. Like in the first house, you can just be present and breathing, and you're completely content. In the third house, no matter what we do, we're not content. In that, because there's a separateness, we're identified with the separate self through our personal desires. I want this. I am this person who wants these things. That's the third house.